Oh yes, we're back. Empire building can be difficult work, but after all we can hardly control the whole Roman Empire if we don't, hey? Our Emperor Dweegington II is old and nearing the end of his life, but that doesn't mean we can't take a few more chunks before his death and the rise of his son. We'll certainly give it a go anyway. We're at a point now where we really need to be focusing on the big three, the big empires of the world that aren't us. The Empire of Britannia, the Holy Roman Empire, and the Byzantium Empire. Specifically, I am focusing on the British and the Byzantium though, because, well, the HRE is just so much bigger than we are. Getting to the Byzantine Empire though, well, it'd be good if we could secure the rest of North Africa and parts of the Middle East. Basically, it'd be good if we could border them before, on sort of all sides, or at least all sides we want, before we start going after them. So that's really our goal. Actually, that's a lie. Our first goal is disinheriting all but one of our children. Why? Because if we don't, the empire will split again. By only having a single child to inherit everything, that means we don't have to worry about it falling apart ever again. I hope, I pray. Anyway, once we're done with that, we march into Egypt. Egypt was, of course, a part of the old Roman Empire. I mean, we all know the stories of Caesar and Cleopatra, after all, and that means it needs to be a part of our new empire. But for now, we'll simply settle with just 2 counties of it. I mean, that helps us move along and get more into sort of northeast Africa. Considering how close Emperor Dweegington is to death, I don't want to risk a massive war, so we should pick on the little guys. We have a claim on a tiny piece of a tiny Greek kingdom, and it'll be technically progress against like the traditional Byzantine Empire lands, so we'll grab it. After a little maintenance, we go for another little kingdom, the Kingdom of Daylum. Much the same reasons before. We know the Emperor hasn't got long, we don't want to get into a long, protracted war. And we were right, because he died. 75 years old and of old age, unlike the multiple family members he brutally murdered. And it's safe to say he's been flung into the deepest pits of hell for what he did. Now we have Emperor Constantine, the first emperor not named after a subscriber. Emperor Constantine, great name though, isn't it? Great name. And can he do better than his father? Well, he'll certainly be kinder, but that won't take a lot. He started by finishing off his father's war very easily, which we always were going to, and now we're going down the diplomatic route. Why? Because it turns out this guy, being like nearly 40, is very well accomplished in that skill tree, so it makes sense to stick with it. I've never used it before. I don't know what it's like, but hey, worth giving a go, worth trying something new, isn't it? It's made him popular, which makes diplomacy a lot easier, although with most new emperors, I still have to spend a lot of time doing that. With it done though, he can start his first war, and that's for England. We've been sitting on a bunch of claims from a bunch of people for a while now, so let's start using them. The claim will be for the Duchy of Mercia and the Duchy of Wyeth, and those are our first targets. Defeating them will really cripple the British Empire, and I think after that point they'll no longer be any kind of a threat to us. Being that this was an empire, I was expecting it to be difficult, but it really wasn't. It was actually really easy. I'm not complaining, I'm just surprised. After all that vicious conquest, a simple war against Egypt seems so little, but that's what we're doing. Once more we fight against the vicious cretin known as Game Lag, but the war itself is actually really simple. And just like that, another one falls, and our land in Africa is starting to look a lot closer to the historical Roman Empire. While I'm waiting to take something more significant, I go and beat up a little guy. Kara Kerman probably didn't deserve it, but hey, it's more for us. Now, needing to find somewhere else, I go for Palestine. Yeah, that won't be a controversial decision at all. But those territories are part of the historical Roman Empire, and therefore they were always going to be part of our conquest. It's an easy war that basically got me a couple of tiny little territories there, but hey, it's land and it's progress. Now our truce has expired and it's back to war against Britain. The Duchy of Deria will get us a good chunk of England. Instead of rushing for that territory though, we head north. Our armies in the Holy Roman Empire meeting and vanquishing the British on the battlefield. Then we keep heading south, not for the land we want, but actually moving towards London. During that siege, Britain capitulates and we take the land, and look at it now. It's clear the British Empire is no longer much of a real threat. We even got a tiny piece of Iceland for good measure. Once more we bounce back to Egypt, but this time it's a little different. Taking the diplomatic route, we have the ability to force vassalization, meaning we can conquer them and make the Queen of Egypt, who is currently in charge, one of our monarchs. So taking all of their land that's left in a single swoop. And it was easy. We eradicate the army, we take the city of Siwan, which was, again, really easy, before taking what's left of their land in Africa. But they still have that bastard bit at the top of Germany, don't they? Which we need to take. Oh, for fuck's sake. I guess it's time for a boat trip. Getting there was long and arduous, and half of our army died of disease, but we did eventually get there. The land had already fallen to our allies, but they've picked up a little Scandinavian ally we need to crush. It was easy. Now we have Egypt. We also have a massive rebellion. Whoops. Good news is, being a diplomat, bribes give crazy bonuses. I also gave away a few duchies because that makes us very unpopular, and we had a lot of duchies to our name. I think our son is currently due to inherit like over 20 titles. We have way too many. I also managed to take more of northern Russia quite easily. Both of the monarchs, or two of the monarchs up there, were happy to be vassalized, so now we have them. It's a little thing, but it boosts our own armies. Now, back to England, and this time for the whole goddamn kingdom. Once again, fighting the Grand Empire was very easy. London fell quick, and we marched north to meet them in battle and eradicated their forces. It didn't take much longer than that before the whole Empire's resistance just collapsed and we took England. I have my home, finally! The Empire of Britannia still technically exists, but it's lost England, Wales, and British France, so it's not looking good. Time for more forced vassalizations? Yup. Specifically, we're taking the whole of Palestine. Please don't cancel me. Palestine fought well, but it just couldn't stand up against us, and we took it. We have a nice chunk of the Middle East now, or at least the very edge of it. I celebrate by taking a tiny chunk of the Byzantine Empire that broke free, making my future conquests easier. It's time to end the British Empire, isn't it? And the first thing I'm going to do is move my capital. We've been in Cordova for so long, and while my eventual goal is Rome, of course, for now we will move it somewhere a bit better, and that's London, which we now rename to Londinium. It just makes sense. Then to war against Britannia, this time for Scotland and Iceland. Well, I just want Scotland, but we get Iceland too. Buy one, get one free. Was taking Scotland easy? Yeah, it was. It was really easy. With that, we have Scotland, Iceland, and Northern Ireland. We've also inherited a couple of Scandinavian wars, but I have no interest in there, so, I just gave up. You can have it. Now we solidify our destruction of the Empire of Britannia by seizing the title for ourselves. We are now the Emperor of Britain. It also has this wonderful side effect of making Ireland an independent country that we don't have a truce against, and as the Emperor of Britain we have the natural right, of course, to seize it against their will. So we do. Their armies fall quick, as does Dublin, and with that, we have it. We now control the British Isles. And doesn't that feel like a great time to leave it? After last week's episode, I was a little concerned about this series and whether or not I should actually cancel it or think about cancelling it. It seemed like it was getting a little stale, like not much was happening, but damn, we took one of the empires we were constantly fighting out entirely. They no longer exist as an independent empire. Furthermore, we made progress in Egypt, and we moved into the Middle East and into Palestine. We've done good. Next time, I guess we start edging closer to taking out the Byzantines. And I'll see you then.